All right. Welcome, everyone, to Cultivating Well-Being, a whole life approach for agriculture. This is a new series that we are offering, and we're so pleased to have you with us today. This will be a multi-part series. You're not required to participate in all eight if things don't resonate with you, don't think they apply or whatever. We hope that you come to all of the sessions or at least watch all of the recordings of the sessions, but just be aware too that participation isn't required. You don't have to come to everything that we have. So pleased to have you with us today. Today we are on the topic of physical wellness. And this multi-session interactive program series, and it's a little different than things that we've done before, is brought to you by the Rural Resiliency Project. And we appreciate the support of our collaborative program partners, the Cultivating Resiliency Program, Annie's Project, and the Women's Agricultural Leadership Program. And just a thanks again. And we also thank UMash. They have been supporting our Rural Resiliency Project for a number of years, and we appreciate their support as well. So just again, before we begin, we use our own experience and background as guides. Each of you are experts in your own lives. If today's topic brings up thoughts or feelings that you might not have been prepared to address, we'll have resources that you can seek assistance from if needed. And this information that we're covering today is not intended to be treatment. I am Doris Mold, and I am the program coordinator for the Rural Resiliency Project. It is one of many things I do in my life. I am very much a part-time person, but like many of you, I am an agriculturalist. I farm and I work as an agricultural consultant, and I work with agricultural organizations across the country and across the world. And thrilled to be here with you today. And again, just note that we are recording this session. There will be some interactive portions. We hope that you participate. I think we'll have some fun, but we're also learning on this one as this is our first session. And I am thrilled that we have two wonderful experts with us today on this topic. Monica McConkey is going to be with us for the whole series. In fact, the series was her idea, and we're thrilled to have her with us. And she is a marvelous rural mental health specialist. She'll introduce herself further, and she will introduce also our super special guest. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, ladies.
All right. Thank you, Doris. Yes, super excited to jump into this series of the 8 dimensions of wellness. Just a quick introduction for those of you who may not know who I am. I was born and raised on a farm in northwestern Minnesota where my family still farms. It's a fifth generation operation with my parents in their late 70s, still very active in the operation. And then my brother and my son is the fifth generation. He started about 6 years ago in 2020. So I'm still very tied in. But my work really focuses on the mental health, stress reduction, relationship building, conflict resolution side of agriculture. And so I work with farmers and ranchers every day, either on farm, over Zoom, on the phone, on a variety of issues. I'm a mental health counselor. And this is year 31 for me, which seems kind of crazy that I've been doing this work for 31 years. It's really flown by. So that is who I am. And in just a little highlight of this series, we're basing this off of SAMHSA's 8 Dimensions of Wellness. SAMHSA is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. It's like the federal mental health services. They kind of guide the work of mental health initiatives and substance use initiatives around the state. But they have developed an 8 Dimensions of Wellness platform, and these webinars will be based off of that. So the first one is on physical wellness. And I really wanted to start there because I know as we start the new year, a lot of us have made resolutions that we're going to, increase good behaviors that help us be more healthy. And it's the getting toward the end of January, and I'm guessing some of us have already started to experience maybe not the success we had hoped with our physical wellness resolutions. So we're starting here, but our health is very holistic. Our health includes all of these, and we're going to, over the course of this year, touch on them all. Okay, so the way this hour will work, we've kind of done the introductions piece, but I'm going to do one more really big one. We have, as part of this, some interactive polls. They are anonymous, and I'll set you up for those here in a little bit. But it just helps us to all be able to interact and not be going back and forth with chat. And it's also anonymous, so we can put down whatever we want to put down and nobody knows. We have a guest speaker who we are honored to have with us here today to share her wisdom and knowledge. Then we'll go into some discussion rooms, and I'll give you two discussion topics. We're going to come back. We're going to have another little segment of learning. And then at the end, there will be a recap of the hour. So we're putting a lot into this hour. It's going to be good. To set up for our polls, I want everybody to grab your cell phones. That's the easiest. You can also set up through your browser. You'll see those instructions on the next slide. There is also a QR code on the next slide if you just want to scan the QR code. But super simple. If you go to your texting app, you just text to the number 22333. And the message you're texting is this code, Monica MCCONK 993. Hit send, and you should get a message back saying that you're a part of the session. And that means you're set to go. You're set to answer all the polls. So I'm just going to give a second here, a few seconds here for us to get that set up. Maybe in chat or using an emoji, just let me know if it's working for you. If you've gotten that message back saying I'm seeing some heads nodding. Okay. Okay, very good. Well, let's give her a go. Okay. First question. What is the first word that comes to mind when you hear physical wellness? To make this one word, because it's going to be a word cloud. So one word that is the first word that comes to mind when you hear physical wellness. All right, we've got exercise, we've got strong, workout, movement, healthy body, health. So the words that have gotten bigger are words that more of you have submitted, and you can submit more than one. So we have sweat. Let's see what else is coming in. Active, physically active, that might have gotten broken up. Fit. Awesome words. Movement, health, active, strong, exercise, healthy body, water, drinking water. That it's hard in the winter. We got some truth in there. Yes. All right. Awesome. Good words, and we know our poll is working. That's what we wanted. Okay, very good. So when we think of physical wellness, there are many components that go into it. The movement, which you put in the word cloud. We have nutrition, we have sleep and rest, we have preventative care and safety, like putting our seatbelts on, and we have, really being aware of risky behaviors like using substances, alcohol, drugs, things like that. all of those things contribute to or can detract from our physical wellness. So, our guest speaker for today, who I am super excited to have here, and she responded very last minute, I've got to tell you, uh, that's Kennedy Youngren, and I'm sure some of you are aware, she is the legendary dietitian. I have worked with her personally and have changed habits uh, based on my interactions with her uh, and feel better because of it. So I asked Kennedy to just come on and give us kind of her top. Well, introduce yourself first, Kennedy, talk about your work, and then give us your top tips heading into 2026, looking at physical wellness as a whole. So
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Monica and Doris. You guys are just so sweet, and I'm so excited to be here. So, I am Kennedy Youngren on social media. I'm the legendary dietitian, but my backstory really isn't in agriculture. I did not grow up on a farm. My dad is an electrician, and my mom has a desk job. My dad grew up on a small dairy farm out here. I'm from Maple Lake, Minnesota, and it was always kind of like dangled over my head. If you're not going to behave in the summers, you're going to go to Uncle Adam's farm, you're going to have to unload his bales and all this stuff. And then fast forward 18 years, I met my husband, and he is a dairy farmer. So I came home after Woodstock Country Music Festival, and I told my family that I met a dairy farmer and I was going to marry him. And you would have thought that my uncles were going to roll over. So I've been on the farm for the last 10 years, and I met my husband, like I said, when I was 18. So I actually went to college a little young, and it was the summer after my freshman year of college. I decided to go into dietetics, so I am a dietitian, and my master's degree is exercise science and sports nutrition. So I actually use my master's degree and my experience working with high performance athletes, whether that's my professional athletes. I worked with the Twins for the 2019 season, the Minnesota Gophers football team, my Olympic level athletes that I fueled leading up to their time trials, those kinds of things. And I just kind of pivot, and I work now with men and women in agriculture, applying those same principles to you guys. We oftentimes don't think of ourselves as athletes, but when we think of the caloric requirements and what our day-to-day schedule looks like, we really are, again, athletes. We're just a different level. So Monica hit the nail on the head here. There are so many aspects that go into physical health, and it's so much more than just movement. A lot of times we think, movement is number one, but when I think of physical health, I think of physical wellness. I want you to be pain-free. I want you to be energized and obviously nourished. And as a dietitian, some of the things that I really focus on, the foundation of what I focus on is really sleep. And I say that with the fact that I am not a sleep psychologist, so that is not my expertise. But when we look on the science of how sleep and our nutrition impact one another, it's really strongly correlated. And right now in the winter, maybe we're feeling really good. It's daylight savings time. For most of us in agriculture, I feel like it gets a little bit lower intensity is maybe how I'll say it compared to planting and harvest season. So we can get a few more hours of sleep than normal. But I find that when I work with men and women on the farm, they are all gas, no brakes. And a lot of times that means that we are running on fumes, whether that is energetically, calorically, or if that means that we're just not getting sufficient sleep. And when we look at the science on sleep, we're looking for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. So when you're sleeping, your body heals and it repairs and it regenerates tissues and it heals your immune system. And if you're somebody who, had a really active day, if you were injured on the farm, if you do work out, that is where your muscles are healing and repairing, and we're preventing excess inflammation or excess pain or delayed time to feeling better. Related to nutrition, this is where your body actually regulates your hunger and fullness hormones. So back in World War II, my favorite study that I like to talk about is the Minnesota starvation study, and you guys have probably heard of it. It's what we're, I would say, most famous for here in Minnesota when it comes to nutrition. But we looked at prisoners of war, and we did some like not wonderful things with them sometimes. And one of the biggest pieces that we gathered from these men was that when we deprived them of sleep, which we define as just less than 7 hours of sleep per night, so not broken sleep, we're not talking 3 hours of sleep, we're talking 6.5 hours of sleep. We found that after 2 nights, these men actually started to exhibit the same symptoms as those with prediabetes, meaning they were hungrier. They had less susceptibility to feel that sensation of fullness. So that also means they have more energetic crashes. They have more cravings. you're more likely to end up in the pantry and kind of just grabbing food without any rhyme or reason, pulling into the gas station or the fast food drive-through or what have you. So it really is this foundational piece. And when I'm talking about fueling individuals, blood sugar management really matters to me. And I don't have a statistic I can pull off the top of my head for you guys about how many people in agriculture have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, or things that, correspond to their blood sugar, but it is a pretty significant percentage of the population. So some tips or tricks that I would give here would be, again, sufficient sleep, which is very hard for us, but we're talking a bedroom at 61 to 71 degrees. I very rarely find that people are out of that window. A bedroom that's so dark that if you waved your hand in front of your face, you couldn't see it. So we're talking blackout curtains. If you take your phone into the bedroom, if you don't want to put it on sleep mode or do not disturb, flip it so it's face down, just so it's not going to light up and wake you up. And then we're going to try to get off screens, a minimum of 30 minutes before we go to bed at night. That's challenging for some of us. We bond with our partner or whoever over TV shows, but 30 minutes is sufficient. So what we know is that blue light that comes off of our TVs and our laptops and our cell phones, that's going to suppress our melatonin, that sleepy hormone, up to about 40 to 60%. Our LED lights, which most of us have in our barns and our offices and our homes, that actually suppresses it up to 80%. So if you're, struggling with sleep, sometimes all it is just some of your light exposure. We're super blessed in that, we work outside and maybe we don't feel that way right now as it's frigid cold in Minnesota. But that is one advantage that we have with what we call our circadian rhythm. So our energetic expenditure, essentially mimicking the sun. We should wake up and feel energized. And then at the end of the day, we should feel tired. So more exposure outside is a huge piece too. Coming off of the sleep perspective, I would be so curious. I wish I had you guys in front of me. How many of you actually eat breakfast? My husband, and a big reason that I went into, or I guess saw a need in this aspect. David, I'm glad that you're eating breakfast. But a big thing that I noticed was that he was telling me that the cows ate before we did. And that's true, right? When you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, a lot of times cows are eating before we are. But what we're going to find then is that one, we're waking up in a dehydrated state, right? So if we're not drinking water or having some kind of electrolytes or some kind of food in our belly, we're running off an empty tank already. And that makes us have delayed reaction time. We're going to have poor memory, speed, strength, and stamina actually go out the window first. So when I think of this, I think of we're driving heavy machinery, we are working with large animals. We have to have those kinds of things. So if you can't sit down for a full breakfast plate, if you can grab, yogurt and a banana or cottage cheese and peaches, or if you have the time or somebody in your corner, to prep breakfast sandwiches or something that's a simple one-handed meal, a burrito that you can grab and go out the door, that is going to make a substantial difference. And then just reaching for water before we grab our coffee. And that is so hard for so many of us because we're in that habit. It's fun. The hand and mouth movement is nice. But what we know is that caffeine on an empty stomach, it's a diuretic, right? So it increases our fluid losses. It's something that's going to put us already in a dehydrated state even further in there. It's an appetite suppressant, so it makes it really hard or more challenging to get that breakfast in because we're just not feeling super hungry. And it's going to raise cortisol, so your stress hormone. And that's something that when had on an empty stomach can kind of wreak a lot of havoc, whether it's just GI symptoms. Most people are going to have a caffeine poop, and that's normal, but we don't necessarily want to become reliant on that caffeine to have a bowel movement, and that can sometimes happen too. So small, simple things like reaching for water first thing in the morning, or even body armor, that's a really great option that you can pick up at the gas station, and they're always on sale, many different sizes. And they actually taste good. And then some kind of quick grab and go snack. But really what I would love to see most of us do is grab some kind of protein before we run out the door. I really do, as a dietitian, think a little different than a lot of the dietitians that maybe are in a clinical perspective. I really like a high protein diet. I am for eggs, I am for red meat, I am for dairy products. Even though I married a dairy farmer, I have a little bias in there, but those things are very, very, very healthful, health-focused foods for us to be consuming, especially first thing in the morning. So make it a little bit convenient for yourself as much as you're able to. So those would be the simplest tricks that I have for you guys. Some of those sleep hygiene habits. a breakfast or bare minimum, some kind of protein and maybe like a fruit or a vegetable on the side. Fruit is probably going to be easier for most of us. And then just making sure that we're reaching for water or an electrolyte beverage, Body Armor, Gatorade, Propel, Powerade, those kinds of things before we grab the coffee. And you should almost immediately notice differences in your energy for the day.
That is awesome, Kennedy. Could I ask you to give just because of the word cloud and how exercise and movement and sweat came into
Mhm.
play, thoughts on movement?
Yeah, I love this.
Good,
Okay.
a good habit, a good strategy, a good rule of
Yep.
thumb for movement.
Okay, awesome. So, like I said, my master's degree is exercise science and sports nutrition. So I love this stuff. I worked underneath Tavis Piatoli and the New Orleans Saints for a time period in my master's degree. And I find that for us in agriculture, we think our day-to-day expenditure is already so high. We're working so hard and so much longer than the average person. So I probably don't need to strength train or anything like that. But we know that metabolically, muscle is your longevity organ. So we say your skin is your largest organ, right? That's not always true. For the average person who has a good amount of muscle mass on their body, your muscle is actually going to be your largest organ system. It's going to require more calories. Not always the goal for everybody to increase their caloric expenditure, right? But we talk about it as your longevity organ. And getting morbid here a little bit, we know that if you were to encounter a horrid situation, let's say a coma or cancer or a burn where we enter into what we would consider a hypermetabolic state where our metabolism is kind of working overdrive, our longevity or our ability to kind of last longer is really tied to how much muscle mass we have on our body. So it does not have to look like what society tells us, where it's a 60-minute workout and we're laid down, covered in sweat, can't breathe. It can look like something as simple as a 10 to 15-minute walk. And if you wanted to do something that was, and you guys are probably like, I don't even know how many steps, 25, 40,000 steps a day. But that could look like putting a backpack on and you have some books in there or some rocks or getting small, simple weights that go around your ankles or your arms. But I would say, or your wrists, I would say lifting weights is one of the most important things that we can be doing. You can use soup cans if you don't have actual weights, throwing seed bags, carrying pails. Just because we don't study the farmer and see how our functional day-to-day movement increases muscle mass does not mean that it's not doing it. I think that's a big perspective shift that I have to kind of like work through with a lot of individuals in agriculture because we think just because we're not lifting weights, we're not building muscle, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for that. So practical. Like we can find ways to implement these things in our everyday.
Mhm.
Let people know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So Monica does have my website on the bottom, except dietitian will be Tian. So like
Oh, I
it's
thought
spelled, that's okay.
that
Like
I
it's
did. Goodness.
It's okay. There's several spellings. So that's my website. My email is literally just Kennedy at thelegendarydietitian.com. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram and those kinds of things too. So you guys can feel free to reach out
Awesome.
with questions or there's blog posts or what have you, but I'm happy to help any way that you guys are needed.
Thank you so much for being here,
Yeah,
Kennedy. I
thank you gals for
appreciate it.
asking me.
And yeah, I encourage all of you to follow her um, on her social media. Lots of good info and reaching out if you want to dive a little deeper. Uh, Thank you for being here. All right. Let me just see. Okay, we got a thank you from Nancy. That's awesome. So we are going to move into some breakout rooms, and I'm thinking, Doris, maybe um, four breakout rooms with five people per room. And I
Sure.
want you all, we'll break out for 10 minutes. So that gives you 2 minutes each to talk through things. And I want you to talk about what resonated with you most about Kennedy's message, her top tips heading into 2026, and then discuss what your biggest barriers are to achieving your physical health or your physical wellness. Because I feel like a lot of times we have the right information, we have good intentions, but then we run up against barriers. So we're going to do the breakout rooms, we're going to come back and we're going to discuss barriers. and how to overcome barriers. So those two questions, what resonated with you most about Kennedy's message, and then your biggest barriers to physical wellness? And maybe Doris, just let people, for those who haven't joined the room, and my recommendation would be based on this discussion to set some goals and tune into barriers that have oh, Kennedy just had to sign off. I think she had to run grandma to an appointment. Barriers that routinely come up for you. So think about what those things are as you're formulating your goals. Because if we can get on top of the barriers as we're setting our goals and starting out, they're going to be addressed, or we know we'll be addressing them as we go. So one kind of rule of thumb that I use whenever I'm working on any kind of change for me with a client is something called the ICR ruler. And the ICR ruler, the premise of it is that in order for change to happen, the change needs to be important to us. We have to have confidence in our ability to make the change happen, and we need to be ready. If any one of those three are not present, the change often will not happen. So all of those barriers that you've identified can fit into one of these three categories. So then the work becomes, okay, time is a barrier. Illness is a barrier. Let's just go back here. Illness is a barrier. Knowledge is a barrier. Motivation is a barrier. Whatever your barrier is it a lack of importance for you in this moment? Is it a lack of confidence in your ability to make the change happen? Or are you just not ready? Once you know that, you can work with that. So if it is knowledge, that might go under confidence and readiness. So what do I need to do prior to implementing this goal that I have of strength training every day? What knowledge do I need to gain to be able to do that? And where do I access that knowledge? So I build my confidence and I am ready. Instead of just jumping in, feeling like I'll figure it out, I'll come up with something, I'll do what I've seen on, on a reel on social media. So really diving in to those barriers and making a plan to overcome, because time's going to be an issue. Motivation's going to be an issue some days. Like, what is your plan to overcome each of the barriers that you're going to face? And this can be helpful as well, that when we are working on implementing a new behavior that will help us get or improve our physical wellness goals, where are we in the stages of behavior change? So right now, after hearing Kennedy's talk, let's say you're in contemplation. It's like, okay, I'm now aware of a few things. I'm not sleeping enough. I'm running out of the house on an empty stomach, and I'm definitely downing coffee before anything else hits my stomach. Like, three things I want to work on right there. So we're aware of the problem and we're aware of what we want it to look like, our desired behavior change. The next step then is, what's our intention to take action? How do we start to prepare for that? Do we stock the fridge with some grab and go breakfast burritos, or are we doing meal prep ahead of time so we have some good protein in the morning? Are we setting some schedules as a reminder, like screen time done, in bed so I can use myself as an example. After I started working with Kennedy, I work really hard to make my bedtime at 10 o'clock and my wake up time at 6 consistent. 10-6, 10-6, whether it's a weekend, a weekday, it's 10 to 6. Is it exact all the time? No, but that is my goal. And I deal with the barriers as they come up so I can continue to see success in my goal. So that was the action phase. I just started prepping so I could be in bed at 10, alarm set at 6. And then it's maintaining. How do I sustain the behavior? You may find yourself in maintenance mode and then life hands you something and you are right back down to I'm aware of the problem and I'm aware of what I want to be doing, but I've no longer been maintaining or sustaining the behavior. That's okay. That is okay. It's not a go to the top, maintain at the top. This is an ongoing flow of improvement and work. Okay. Another thing that can help us as we're working toward behavior change, as we're working toward implementing good physical wellness habits, is to talk to ourselves or an accountability partner about some of these things. Why is it not advantageous to stay the same? What are the disadvantages if I just keep doing what I'm doing? Keep getting 5 hours of sleep, keep drinking coffee on an empty stomach, whatever it is. What's the disadvantage of that? What are the advantages of the change I want to make? When I think about that change, what optimism do I feel? What am I excited about? What does that change mean to me? And what's my intention? Like, what are my goals? And then we can ask ourselves some deeper questions like, you know, things can't stay the same as they are now. These are phrases like you're asking someone else, but you can ask yourself, what am I thinking about doing? What changes am I thinking about making? Where do I go from here? What do I want to do at this point? How would I like things to turn out? After seeing all of this, what's the very next step for me? So this is referred to as change talk, and it gets us moving in a direction forward toward our goals. It helps our mind start to formulate thought patterns that move us forward toward our physical wellness goals. So my encouragement for you today is to pick one thing, one small change that you can focus on this week. And if you want to put your small change in the chat and share it with others, that's awesome. Little bit of an accountability plug, putting it out there. But sometimes when we look at the big picture and all of the things we want to have different, it can become so incredibly overwhelming, and that boosts those barriers. So if we pick one thing, like I'm going to up my water intake by 20 ounces a day above what I'm drinking already. I'm going to tack on an extra 2,000 steps. I'm going to up my bedtime by 1 hour. So I want you all, whether you don't have to put it in chat, you can write it down for yourself, you can put it in your phone, but just choose one thing, one small thing that you are willing to work on for the next week. Oh, I love that, Lucy. A little bit of a reframing is referring to exercise as movement, less intimidating. I need to get, or I'm going to get, or I want to get, or I deserve to get more movement in my day. Awesome. Great reframe. Okay. That really wraps up the first physical wellness, the first session of our 8 Dimensions of Wellness webinar. The second one is coming up on February 18th, and that is all about occupational wellness. that refers to our satisfaction, balance, and purpose in our work. So do we find contentment in our work? Are we burned out? Do we feel like we're in the right place? So tune in for the next session, occupational wellness. You will get an email invite, just like you did for this one. So I am going to, oh, this is my contact info. If you have questions, comments, you can absolutely feel free to reach out to me at any time. Don't log off yet, though, because Doris has a number of um, additional resources she is going to share with us.
All right. Thank you so much, Monica. And thanks everyone for participating. We're learning as we're going through this, but resources, just want to remind people that there are resources. Monica is an awesome resource, and please reach out to her if you, or Kennedy, because both of them are just terrific in helping you with some things. We will, uh, we can, we can look at emailing the resources, the resource list, certainly, and potentially a PDF of the slides too, Monica. Would that be possible? Okay, so I'll email those out to you as soon as I get that organized. But we have online resource directory, Farm State of Mind. And then we have some things coming up that we hope, also additional resources. Just if we can go back to those for a moment here, Monica, just want to remind people that there are several resources on the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And there's the crisis text line as well, National Domestic Violence Hotline. So those are some more general resources. UMASH, the Upper Midwest Agricultural Safety and Health Center, is one of 11 health centers set up by the CDC, has some wonderful ag resources there as well. And then I have some additional resources that I'll send out on the resource list. I've been collecting some other ones that we don't have a slide of, but we'll include those in the email back to you. But as Monica said, we have occupational wellness coming up next month. The following month, we have, dun, 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 financial wellness. And then in April, we are going to be talking about emotional wellness. And then May, June, July, August, we will have some other lighter activities that are kind of optional. And then September, October, November, December, we will have the last 4 of the 8 areas. So just wanted to let you know kind of generally how things are running. Next month, we will resume the human side of farm transition circle. So be looking for that. That date's to be announced. And just some upcoming programs from our collaborative program partners. Just wanted to make you aware that this is the International Year of the Woman Farmer, and kickoff program with our partners from Annie's Project. They are doing a program next week on what the U.S. Census of Agriculture can tell us about women farmers in the U.S. And then one of our other program partners hosts a monthly coffee chat, just an opportunity for people. And it does say women in agriculture, but we have men that join as well. But it's totally anonymous. You don't see people. You might hear them talking about things because people have the option to verbalize what's on their mind, but kind of a de-stressor activity. And then it's just opened up to whatever people want to talk about that month. So that might be something you'd like to join. And then I think that, yes, and then our Women's Ag Leadership program is hosting their annual conference on March 31st. And again, it's local leadership, global impact. This year they are celebrating the International Year of the Woman Farmer. They have different themes every year, and people from all walks of agriculture come to this in-person event. It's held at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. So if you have not ever participated in that, you're welcome to. Women, men, whoever, however you identify, you're welcome to participate. So just wanted to get those shout outs for folks. If you'd like to reach me about the Rural Resiliency Project or this program in general, happy to email with you. There is my email address. So with that, thank you so much for participating. Monica, any last words or any last questions from anybody or comments?